Grant Bezuidenhout. I was the project lead on Gateway, principal designer of all the works, and your team leader.
Fantastic. Sandro, do you want to go next?
Yeah, I'm Sandro Evellini from Evellini Brothers. We basically the steel fabricators and installers. We did a JV with Impact.
Great. Rod, would you like to introduce yourself?
Okay, Rod Stretch from Tabel Stretch and Associates. We were the structural engineers on the project.
Okay, fantastic. And for our judges, we've got Kevin Harris, John Duncan, and Emmanuel Gebremeskel. Kevin, you want to go first? Tell us a bit about who you are and where you're from and what you're interested in here.
I'm Kevin Harris. I have a steel fabrication project management background. I'm independent engineering consultant and structural steel software sales and support. And I've joining the judges panel for the first time this year with an interest particularly related to the challenges of fabrication, detailing as well. John will speak about that too, and just the general pre-erection side of the project, so fabrication, etc.
Right, John Duncan, do you want to say hello and let us know what your role in Steel Awards is and how long you've been involved with it? Just be sure to switch your camera on.
You really don't want to see this. Greetings all, morning. I'm John Duncan. I've been in the steel industry since 1972. I've been involved with Steel Awards since 1981, and I'm fascinated by structures. I'm a structural engineer. Thank you.
Great. Emmanuel?
Hi, good morning. Emmanuel Gebremeskel, Technical Director at the Steel Institute. And I am very keen to see typically the engineering aspects of the project, but also all the other interesting things that we have to enjoy here. Thanks.
Okay, fantastic. Grant, could you give us a little bit of a brief description of what the project entailed?
Yeah, sure. So Old Mutual, we unlocked additional bulk for Old Mutual for Gateway Properties, Old Mutual Properties. They had interest in expanding Gateway, I think, since 2010. So we came on board on the project. The primary brief from the client was to expand the food and entertainment component, add new international brands that had interest in the mall, and bring in very strong local brands. So we brought in the likes of H&M, Starbucks, Hamleys. One of the main problems with the current food and entertainment offering that they had at Gateway was that it was extremely undersized. And it was completely overcrowded and overloaded due to mainly because of the cinema. So Gateway is the biggest and busiest cinema complex in the country. Gateway sees 2 million people a month through their doors. So they desperately needed to expand the space. So when we came on board, we redesigned the entire entertainment and food component, which is on the second floor. Which was part of the whole new food court. Yeah, and that was pretty much the expense of the project.
Okay, great. So I'm not sure who would be the best person to answer this, but Grant, maybe you can direct the questions as they need to be directed. Can you give us a brief description of what the actual structural framing entails of the project?
Yeah, Rod can help there.
Okay, don't forget to unmute yourself,
Rod.
Unmute
myself. Let me just unmute myself. Okay, in terms of the structural steel, the main issue with Gateway was that there was FAR available, but there wasn't coverage available. So all the new structures basically went on top of existing. So structural steel, in terms of the weight of the elements, what have you, was the ideal medium to build in. So what we did is all the roof structures, obviously in structural steel, but we also used the bond deck flooring for all the new floor structures. So we had plate girders throughout. It was a common kind of 10 by 10 grid in most instances. And so we use Bondec and plate girders for that. And the roof, obviously the elements there, the main feature of the expansion up at the food court were these vaulted barrel roofs with these sort of tree-type support column elements. Gateway is massive, and so everything is very big. So it's very impressive in terms of size. But obviously the issue as well, constructing something like this on top of existing, and particularly in this case with the food court, it was on top of an existing parking deck, post-tension deck. So there's all the issues of tendons and loading and whatever, which had to be contended with. But I think a picture tells more than any words. So to describe that in words is really see the photographs and the drawings to visualize it. But we're talking about very large scale elements, roof elements, vaulted roofs of about 15, 20 meters up in the air. The floors that we installed at Gateway at the food court were also in between two parking decks, 20 meters apart. So we filled the gap basically with plate girders bridging across between two parking decks to create the additional floor area of the food court over an area. I guess it must have been a length of about 40, 50 meters and a span of about 20 meters. And then on top of that, we built this vaulted barrel roof, which is best seen rather than described. So that's about it. The other element, of course, with the structures is that most of the areas we built, as I said, were on top of existing, and they were mainly old original loading areas. So the issue there was, well, we're going to be building a first floor structure on top of a ground floor loading area. So the best thing we could do there, obviously, was to do it also in steel on-deck flooring for the speed of construction to keep these areas open during construction, and then also avoid the backpropping of the suspended ground floor slabs over the basement, because obviously getting to the basement where there were existing working areas and structures would be impossible to backprop these areas. So a lightweight structure was really essential, not from even a cost point of view, but from a practical point of view, you couldn't have done it any other way. So, as I said, we're talking about a couple of things here. We're talking about additional floor slabs at first floor level for these new shopping elements, extensions to the mall. Then describing also the area which is known as the food court, which is probably the sort of heartbeat of the expansion. But as I said, pictures are better than words.
I do have some pictures queued up, some of the pictures that were submitted with the nomination. So what I can do is perhaps just share my screen and flick through them, and then if any of you would like to comment on what's on screen, or if you have a model or something that you'd like to share, you're welcome to do so. Grant, how would you like to proceed?
Yeah, I've got models of it that I've
okay,
prepared.
Sure. Let's go to that, and then I can share.
I may add on to what Rod said.
Sure.
As he rightly said, because Gateway is so enormous and the spans are so massive, what the main brief for me to Rod was we wanted to create a light, elegant structure, which is extremely difficult when you're talking about these 20, 25 meter spans, massive heights. What we tried to do was to connect to the external envelope, to bring the outside in, create a very light, elegant structure with big skylights, a lot of glass, so bring the outside in into the entertainment space to create that nice environment. And I think what Rod did was quite excellent in the way we achieved that in the steel, the way it was designed, the geometries of it. When you read it, when you look up, it is a very, very delicate, thin profile, but in reality, it's an enormous piece of steel. If you had to stand there, it would come up to my waist. But when you're in the food court and you read it, it actually reads very light and elegant. So that was a very difficult thing to achieve. So I just wanted to add on that piece onto it. Okay, so I've got a number of visual models, and I've got some photos.
Okay, great.
So what we can do is we can run through what I have here. Let me just screen share this. So I've got This is the steel. Can you guys see all this?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the structural steel that this is from the Tekla model. This is Starbucks. And then what I've got, can you see this one now?
We're on the same shot, so.
Let me just, this is a more rendered version. Okay, so this is the palm court where we added in all these tensile elements here. So these are 200, I think, what 250 diameter steel posts, which are back braced on. So this is undulating tensile that we introduced. The primary element that we have here is Starbucks, which is this big curve, this large curved section here. Now, what we have, and I'll just quickly go back and I'll show you one further. So I'm going to just quickly show you something else. Can you guys see this picture?
We can see your
we can see the
folder.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the original gateway. So the challenge here was to bring in Starbucks, which is an iconic brand, as we all know, and they wanted space where they could have internal and external views. So what is quite impressive about Gateway is the Great Hall with its enormous vault. It's actually quite a very nice view to look into, and obviously you've got the Palm Court external area for Durban. So we designed this Starbucks to intersect into the space. So where this recess is here in the facade, what we did is we curved this glass arch from the front behind these columns, arcing back out. Now the brief was that this structure must be integrated and have no visible columns. So it looks like it's just floating there. Now, this is a 20-meter span, if I'm not correct, right? So to have no visible support on 20 meters is quite a difficult ask, especially, like as I said before, everything had to be very delicate and light, so it's not this bulky, heavy element. So what we did is we actually connected the steel to the back of these columns. So this is the steel work. So to achieve the elegance and the light portion of it, all the steel is expressed. So when we did the design, we said to ourselves, we wanted to express the steel as the architectural element, instead of the norm where you have a skeleton that is clad over. So what you see in all the finished architecture is steel. The only time we clad it was to hide services. So if there's a ceiling, it's because there's a lot of services and the client didn't like that. But everything else was, the finished steel product was designed like that and manufactured as the finished element. So this is a curved box beam, the top and bottom, and the floor is a Bondek floor. And this created the Starbucks space. And the whole thing is a curved glass curtain wall. And when you go in here, you can see the Great Hall. So it has lovely views from inside Starbucks and the mezzanine, all made from steel. So when you can sit here and look out, and you can sit here and look out. So this was very successful in creating the Starbucks space. Everything is exposed steel to create that light element, and obviously there's the weight limitations that we had on the structure because of obviously the existing foundations and all that couldn't carry enormous loads. So that was the Starbucks element.
Okay.
Then what
judges, just before you move on, Grant, I just want to give the judges an opportunity to ask any questions if they have any up until this point. Kevin, Emmanuel, Duncan, John Duncan, any questions?
How was the steel brought in? Considering that it looks like it's an enclosed area.
It is. So the curved beams, I could probably show you if I may just quickly go into this folder, I'll open this for you. You can actually see during the construction. So this was brought in pieces. So that I think Avellini made these curved box pieces and they're welded together. So you can see the construction here. This is the base plate where the glass curtain wall connected to. And then we connected the top plates, which lined up perfectly with this top beam, this top structure of the existing gateway. So everything was designed to integrate. But yeah, these two, so there's two beams that pick up the structure, the roof and the floor, and then we got bond deck in between. And they were brought on site with these big trucks. You can see some of it sitting on the floor here, craned into place, and then welded and fabricated on site.
Correct. I think this would actually be a good spot for Sandra to chime in. Sandra, what were some of the challenges in terms of fabrication and erection in relation to this specific part of the project?
Denise, some issues. Obviously, we're getting the curve is not always the easiest thing to get spot on, and then obviously due to welding and that, you get some warping and deflections. But it was a tedious task, took some time, and also the handling of such big pieces on site's not always that easy, and especially in a restricted area. So a lot of handheld features that we had to take in and carry, which took time. But it was tricky, but with the help of Rod and that, we managed to get it all done, and it turned out fantastically well.
Good.
You can see the scale of a person next to it. That's the thing about a gateway. It actually, it has a strange effect where it looks small because of the scale of gateway, but in reality, everything is absolutely massive. But it ties in perfectly, and the guys did a fantastic job, and it's very well received by the client.
Is that curved section made from plate? What materials are used in there?
Sorry, Rod. That's Rod. Yeah, I think we probably 8mm plate formed that box section with a little toe on the side at the bottom. From what I can remember, I think the glazing mullions came down onto down that face, set on the toe. I can't quite remember the detail.
Okay. Grant, would you like to continue?
Yeah, sure.
You were doing your walkthrough there.
I've got here's I'll show this. There's a few little.
So that's the top ring beam now.
Yeah. So this is the top of it. So you can see this is the final paint that they put on. So this thing was completed as is. We had no cladding, anything is on it, and it was a pristine finish. And I can show you, as Rod said, we can take a look at the final products. Can you see so this is gateway complete, and you can see how light it looks, the elegance of it. Once the glasses come in, it picks up the line perfectly, and how it integrates into the facade. Really designed so it doesn't look like a stick-on. It looks completely natural. This arch here follows the same arch as the main circle at Palm Boulevard, which is behind us. So as you approach Gateway down Palm Boulevard, you're greeted by this arch colonnade, and it's an exact mirror onto Starbucks, picking up all the lines together, and we follow the same detail as what the original structure is. So it's a really nice integrated approach to the design. So you don't have this clip-on looking thing, especially since this is one of the most iconic buildings in South Africa. Actually, the most viewed on the internet is this facade of Gateway. So it was really critical that we do a good design solution. So, okay, so that was Starbucks. What we have here, this is the food and entertainment component of Gateway. In front of us at the top is the cinema complex. On the left here, the view you're seeing here, this little piece here was their food court. So you have the busiest center in South Africa, 2 million people a month. trying to fit in that little space there. That was the food court. This here was now converted into Hamleys, which is the London toy stores, globally known. This whole facade was in lightweight steel, and we expressed the existing structure of the food court, which is very attractive. I don't have it modeled here though. So inside Hamleys, we've got the existing structures in place, and we added on a big cladded wall there and a shop front. So we converted the old food court into Hamleys. Then we carried on through into here. We added a new scenic lift, which is concrete clad with steel structure in between. This fed all the parking lots into the food court, and then it opens up into the food court itself. So this is the food court space. This structure you see here, this was an old external piece of Gateway. It ended there. This was a big hole. It was a massive, there's a big void with a garden in it. So everything you see in the space is all steel. The entire floor is steel. This is a Bondec floor. At the end here, we've got a massive glass floor. It's all steel structure. Everything, the cladding that we have here, this geometric cladding, that was all designed with Tekla. We had our 3D fabricators and modelers designing this, all in steel, and it was clad with timber panels afterwards. These food pods, this was something that unique to South Africa. This is an interactive space. It was designed with these food pods where you could walk around it and meander through like a market. Interact with the food pod from any angle. What we have here is a spiral cladding. This is all in steel with a stainless steel flue up the top, all designed to float off the roof structure. So this spiral in itself was very difficult to complete. It's, architects have our whimsical dreams, but guys like Rod and Avellini have the hard job of actually making it real, and they pulled it off perfectly. I was very impressed. I remember we sat 10 o'clock at night getting this thing right. Very impressive. And we go through here, you can see this whole arch is all glass. So you have a complete arch of glass through the whole food court. Come into our big glass vault. There's a glass floor, and if we look through, so it's an enormous glass facade. When we look up, so these thin profiles that we have here, we've reduced the height to create some sort of intimacy. So you have your grand approach, you come into the food court, it's a big vault, you've got the grandeur for Gateway. Then when you go into the eating spaces, we lowered the roof to create an intimate space. We've got a jump park on the side here. And the only cladding we did was to clad the services in this roof space. But all of these trusses, all of these is all steel, it's all exposed and designed to be architecturally exposed. So you can see the lightness of it. But when you come up to the top, this was what the impressive part is, that it was designed to have this shape with a very thin leading edge. And then it gets quite thick at the top. But visually, when you look at it, because it has such a slight leading edge, it's like a knife blade, and it reads very light. And the same with the top profiles. You can see very light edge. So that was how we achieved this very light structure. And I know Rod had a wonderful time with this double curved glass. So the glass curtain was curved in one plane, and then the roof's curved in another.
Well, that front box beam is curved horizontally and vertically, which I think obviously without any axis rotation. So it's quite a feat to get that thing to fit, and it's massive. It's 15 meters up in the air to spanning 20 meters. Yeah.
And then we come outside. We've got this floating steel. This is all clad in timber. So it's a floating walkway. So you come outside the food court, you exit out here, and you can walk around this walkway with this floating bridge. And then when you come back here, you can see the food court itself. Sorry, it actually floats across the whole span. with no visible structure in the front arc.
Sandra, I saw a little bit of a chuckle there on the previous section. Do you want to tell us a bit about what was so amusing there?
Just like what Rod said, when you got a steel member and it's not just curved in one direction, it's never easy to achieve when fabricating. And guys that aren't in the fabrication industry just see it sitting there and they think it's pretty easy just to get it like that. But the amount of hours and time that it takes to actually get it and to get it spot on, because remember in steel, we don't have a lot of tolerances and leeway. So thing is with Avellini, we love these kind of challenges, and it's something that my grandparents instilled in us when they started, because obviously coming from being blacksmiths from Italy and all that. So we take pride in precision, and yeah, it's beautiful to see. So yeah.
When we're talking about the head beam there at the top of the curtain wall, which is obviously taking the barrel arch and vertical curvature and taking the horizontal curvature of the facade as well. It was quite an amazing achievement to get that thing all welded up and fitting in place. We remember working off existing column positions, which weren't perfect. We had to have them surveyed. They weren't exactly on grid. 50 mils, 100 mils here off grid. Then you've got to take that into account too to make everything fit. We're talking building on top of an existing parking deck here.
Yeah.
This is
to try and connect from old to new. So, but
Yeah.
we managed to get it all done, and it looks fantastic.
Good. Judges, I just want to give you a chance here to chime in if you've got any questions.
Grant, what about a photograph of this photograph?
Yeah, so I've got quite a few photographs of this kind of stuff, which I can take you through.
Sure. We've got about 9 minutes or so before our scheduled end, and what generally does tend to happen is we cut off. So don't be alarmed if suddenly it cuts off. We can follow up any questions via email. But I do just want to give the judges an opportunity to ask any questions that they might have up until now. Are you all good? Any questions or comments? Kevin, Emmanuel, John, you all good? Okay, fantastic.
Can I just say that I know that Avellini did a mock build-up of the arches and what have you up in the yard to make sure everything fits. Am I correct, Sandra?
Yes, Rod. Yeah, we had to do that, pre-assemble it here in the yard to make sure it's 100% before taking it to site.
And this is pre-assembling something which spans 20 meters with overhangs of another 10 meters. So it's a huge structure as well. So it's not a small mock-up.
Denise, I can try and look for some photos of us assembling it here and email them through to you.
Yeah, that'd be
I'm just
fantastic.
on my laptop now, so I don't have it on my laptop.
Not a problem.
Just one question regarding the site welding. Maybe you mentioned it already. What kind of quality control was spec'd and executed?
Well, basically, we did a visual inspection with the welding, and then we did some what do you call the testing, the ink test, to see if there was any penetration and all that. And we also had a few that had to be X-rayed in the workshop.
Yeah, obviously with the erection, there are hidden bolts and what have you involved, and then the joints are obviously also welded afterwards and ground to get a perfect seal and alignment and what have you. But there are hidden erection bolts, so most of these members, these box sections, would have had an opening at the top, sealed off opening. So obviously there's no internal corrosion, which enable hands to get in and make the connections.
Okay, that's what I was wondering, how you actually made those connections. I thought they were all welded. All right, I get it now.
No, most of them, but that's not all of them. Obviously the curtain walling, where the box sections are visible, top and bottom, and whatever the horizontal members, all those connections would have been site welded, but there would have been a little cleat which held them in position, obviously, to enable that to happen, and the cleat would have been burnt off later.
Right.
Ground smooth.
Right. We've got about 5 minutes or so left. I want to just give each of the project team members an opportunity to highlight what they feel is most impressive about the project, or what they're most proud of. Grant, do you want to go first?
For me, the thing I'm most proud of is the achievement of the brief with regards to the elegant nature of the steel. I've always been inspired by the likes of Calatrava and the use of exposed structure and just what you can do with it. And when we went to ROD to design this architectural steel, not as clad thing which we see all the time, that's what I'm most proud of, because you don't see that very often. It's always hidden away. And to create something like that architecturally with these complex geometries and the challenges that we faced, and to pull it off perfectly. If I can show you the 3D model and they're finished and they're flawless. That's what I'm most proud of, is to actually to have achieved that element of the design.
Great. Rod, do you maybe want to elaborate on what you're most proud of in this project?
Well, what I'm very happy with is that I went along with it because I was skeptic at the start, because I'm one of those guys that thinks, well, demolish things and build something else, which is not going to be, well, I thought we'd not be too different. But in the end, we didn't try and dilute Grant's requirements and compromise his aesthetics. We went for it, and I must say it ended up very well. So it's one of the few projects I actually dragged my wife to have a look at. I don't normally take her to have a look at anything I've done, and she was impressed. So I think after 35 years of marriage or whatever it is, so it is an exception. And we did the original gateway too, and she wasn't interested in that one too much.
Sandro, do you want to let us know from a fabrication and erection point of view, what are you most proud of on this project?
Well, we're very proud of how we've made everything fit according to how the architect and the engineers wanted to, especially with all the curvatures and splice connections, and especially with welding, because we don't like to do too much welding on site. We prefer to do it in-house in the workshop and send it to site already complete. So there's always elements like with wind and all that happens when you're on site. But yeah, the way that it's turned out, and also we love seeing that Avellini's been part of building landmarks in around Durban and South Africa. So yeah, especially with such big elements, yeah, we're very proud to be being a part of the team.
Excellent. So Grant, we've got about 2.5 minutes remaining. Is there anything else that you'd like to highlight for our judges?
Yeah, I've just put this picture on the screen. So this is a side view of the food court. And you can see, we went through the model briefly, and you can see the lightness and the elegance of the space. And the best thing about it is how much the people love it. We can talk as much as we want about design and all that, but it's absolutely loved space, especially this glass floor, the way the kids love it, and they like, some of them are terrified of it. I think this is 15 meters in the air. So we have a sunken garden in there. And obviously when you stand here with a glass facade and a glass floor, it's an uninterrupted view of 15 meters below this garden and the sky above, with the skylights above. And this couldn't have been done without it being done in steel. This would not have been realized with any other material. And the success of it is the lightness of it. So you must bear in mind that this is about 3,000 square meters of food court. And it doesn't feel like it. It's a very light space, and the steel is beautifully designed and detailed. You can't see any fixing, no bolts anywhere. Everything is seamless, and it's just a great product at the end of the day.